Have you ever wondered why games today suck? Maybe it's because back then, the only microtransactions that occurred was you bargaining with your mom to stay up past your bedtime just to rage quit an hour later and cry yourself to sleep. Whatever the reason, we're going back in time to see what made games great when gaming companies cared about making good games and less about making millions. Get in, loser, we're going time hopping. What would you get if you added a Tony Montana cosplayer, 80s themed furniture, and bags of suspicious flour into a room? Well, you'd get Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Before The Rock became a star, he actually started a gaming company called Rockstar Games, who in 2002 forced their Rockstar North division to make and release the game called Grand Theft Auto Vice City. I'm sorry, PC players, but you have to wait until 2003 until you could get your sweaty keyboard hands on it. While you wait, let me tell you what this game is about. The game is set in the fictional city of Vice City, which is based on the city of Miami in the 1980s. The main character of the game is Tommy Vercetti, a former mafia hitman who was released from prison and sent to Vice City to complete a drug deal. However, the deal goes wrong, and Tommy is left to clean up the mess, a mess that would later lead him to building his own criminal empire in the city. Tommy made it so big that he got bored with crime and instead dived into the gaming industry, making a video game about himself which he sold for $50 on both PlayStation 2 and PC. I guess he had a pretty good marketing team because within 24 hours of the game's release, it sold over 500,000 copies. Within 2 days of its release, that number turned into 1.4 million copies, making it the fastest selling game in history at that time. By March 2008, the game has sold 17.5 million units worldwide, making it one of the best-selling PlayStation 2 games. I loved it, you loved it, and even the critics loved it because the game received overwhelmingly positive reviews, so much so that it became the highest rated PlayStation 2 game of 2003. But I'm not here to beat around the bush, and that bush is copying. It's a well-known fact that I will now make well known that Tommy Vercetti is a ripoff. That's right, he is nothing but a minor league Tony Montana from the film Scarface. Even the game devs couldn't deny that they took heavy inspiration from Scarface, so the proof is in the pudding. They both end up in exile, they both rise to power in a Miami-inspired setting using great amounts of violence, they both worked as contract killers, and both killed their collaborators and took over the ex-bosses' empires. Even the mansions in the games are similar. Before I end up on a hook, I'll let Tommy off the hook and give him a chance by playing his game. The game starts off where Tommy Vercetti has just been released from the Boy Scouts, and Mafioso Dude number 1, 2, and 3 decide that in order to not have him interrupting in their girl boss business, they're going to send him on solo missions across Vice City to keep him busy. The first of those missions goes down at the docks, and it seems that everyone had decided beforehand that they were going to be cute by wearing matching flower shirts. The boys then came out of the shadows and started shooting at us without warrant or warning. Tommy's friends are so thoughtful, as we never even saw the surprise welcome home party coming. Tommy didn't bring his BB gun though, and therefore couldn't join in on the fun, so he decided to rush back home and ask his mom where she kept it, but unfortunately they had already left by the time he came back. After that fiasco, the best part of any GTA game began, which was the ability to start free roaming. Tommy prides himself in being a good church-going boy, so when I saw a lady dressed provocatively, I decided it would be best if we taught her a lesson in covering up her cups. I ran away before she could fight back because I don't believe in women fighting. My mom always said that an empty car is a free car, so I got into one and started driving towards our next mission, but not before showing the citizens of Vice City the dangers of jaywalking. I promise my driving in real life is just as good as my driving in GTA, because who doesn't almost run over an old lady in a wheelchair at least once in their life? Tommy then gets on the phone with Sonny and tells him about the ambush that must have happened after his party at the docks earlier.
That was my money, Tommy! My money!
Sonny honestly took it like a champ, but Tommy promises him that he will get back the money and the wiens of those responsible. After the call, I started sightseeing because terrorism fuels the economy, and I noticed that Tommy's room was very fancy. I wondered how he could afford to live here, because we literally had $0 to our name. We also got to see our first sighting of a girl doing the iconic GTA hooker walk. Her walk distracted me so much that I ended up totaling my car, and it really gave me a moment of clarity as I realized that I was a menace to the dentist and shouldn't be driving. Tommy then had to run everywhere for a while since cars traumatized me. Luck must have been on our side since we found a gun that we would have never seen if we were driving. They say that you should always take your new weapon swimming, so that's exactly what I did. The water must have been really cold because afterwards Tommy was running like he had to go home and shoot a brownie from his butt. We ran past a scooter which reminded me of our buddy Trevor Phillips, as I too always wanted a scooter buddy.
We are Scooter Brothers! Scooter Brother!
Tommy went ahead and spoke to Sonny's lawyer, Ken Rosenberg, who sent us to a party to find out who stole their money during the ambush. We like to party hardy, so naturally we needed to get into our best clothes because we wanted to be the belle of the ball. Tommy was looking, as the kids like to call it, fly, but I would have personally gone with the leopard print Speedo. We got back onto our Vespa, and something about the sound of this thing just made me want to chug a Monster energy drink and punch a wall. Meanwhile at the party, this military guy named Juan Cortez asked us why we arrived to a luxury yacht party on a Vespa, in which Tommy responds that he's not like other guys, he's different. He tells us that he will keep us in the loop with the money issue, and in the meantime, Tommy must take his daughter to a nightclub. We drop her off at the club at night, and she decides to do the hooker walk as she walks away from us, but we know that she was just clenching in a big old fart.
Sure you will.
Now that I could free roam again, I was trying to drive like a responsible citizen, but the procedural spawning of cars in this game made it hard. And before I even got 1 block away from the club, our car was already wrecked. Tommy should thank me for getting rid of that metal death trap, as we ran into that lady from before, who was still dressing saucily and hadn't learned her lesson. We tried to reaffirm our values into her again, but this time she fought back, so I ran away like the man I am. Tommy ended up getting a call to go to a club to meet this musician who could help us find people who were dealing in cold hard Coca-Cola and who would know who stole Sonny's money. On the way there, I saw a man with a bad back, so I offered him a free chiropractic session. Tommy honestly is a man of the people and tries his best to help his fellow neighbors. We even stopped and bought a hammer to help fix our neighbor's wife's plumbing. At the club, the One Direction ripoff guy starts talking to us after Tommy wanted to take a selfie with him because he was a big fan. I couldn't understand a word he was saying as I only speak English US, but I think he asked if we were looking for a giggle. Afterwards, he points us in the direction of a chef who was supposedly dealing in discounted club sandwiches. It was time to fix that plumbing that I spoke of, so we pulled out our massive hammer and started swinging it around. Lance Vance then heard the call of our massive balls and then showed up to ask us to be best friends forever. Tommy agrees as he is a go-with-the-flow type of guy. Even though Lance gave us a gun, we never even shot the chefs, but I'm not one to question the purpose of a mission if it gives me money or compliments at the end. Rosenberg then got back in touch with us and told us to go and intimidate 2 jurors who was testifying against some mutual acquaintances that we never get to see or meet. They always say a way to a man's heart is through his car, and in this case it was true.
I can't believe this is happening. Giorgio sends his regards.
Before I could drive off into the sunset, this woman mistook me for a taxi driver and got into our car after a long shift. I got nervous and started driving around sporadically because I'm not used to talking to people. I got out of the car after a nervous breakdown and she never even paid us any cab fare. But that's okay because she smelled like cigarettes and vanilla ice cream, just like Mom used to. Tommy then went to pay Rosenberg a visit where he met Woody from Toy Story. The doll could not only speak, but he could also dish out orders, and he told us to go and smash up 2 delivery trucks. Tommy decided to start a fight to show off his steroid injections, but little did we know that these union guys would also want to fight us back, since we were the toughest looking guy around, and according to prison rules, that is how you establish dominance. So anyway, I just started shooting, and my strategy here was to depend on my skills to spray and pray. Miraculously, a stray bullet hit the van, and we heroically pranced away from it as it blew up. Afterwards, we drove back to Cortez, and I parked him in because I'm a prankster in the streets and a cancer in the sheets. We get orders to go and chainsaw a guy named Gonzalez's palm trees because that's how we thank him for ambushing us.
Oh, sweet Jesus! I've wasted my life and my look. Get it moving. Stand still and I'll make it quick. Whoa, that's real bad driving.
I got insulted when Gonzalez ran right past my scooter instead of stealing it, so I decided to humble his lavish expectations by flattening him with my Blue Devil. The cops didn't stand for biker violence though, and started to chase the only Vespa driving mechanic that was also coincidentally carrying a chainsaw around town. The mission was to get to a pay and spray, but thanks to my advanced driving skills, I got away without needing to repaint my vehicle and trick the cops with our mechanic voodoo magic. I then went on a joyride, in which I saw a jogger, and I made sure that actions like that would never happen in my neighborhood again. With my good deed of the day complete, I had to go and do my bad deed. Cortez had given us a job to speak to this courier guy at the mall, but some baguettes followed Tommy and blew the whole thing out of proportion. I then mind-controlled Tommy to chase him because he still had our Nicolas Cage pillowcase that we ordered. Unfortunately for us, we had to chase him down on a bike, and of course, I would hit every single sign and lamppost on the way, because how else do you test out the durability of one's motor vehicle without slamming it into everything? With my crash montage complete, I got really annoyed by falling off of my bike, and decided to get into a mother trucker. After chasing him down and knocking him up, we could bring the dip and chips back to Cortez. A drug lord named Diaz then needed our protection, but when we got there, he didn't even have the ass. The rest of the mission was pretty standard, as we got to shoot some men and there was another bike chase.
I live! Dickhead! And it's all down to you. What is your name?
Tommy.
I see you soon, amigo, I think.
Shit. Where's that guy, Lance?
With the mission complete, I had to go and save because autosave didn't exist in the 80s. On my way to our hotel, I ran into the raddest rollerblader I've ever seen. This guy had some serious skills, and it wasn't a surprise when I found out that he turned out to be Tony Hawk's dad. Time is money and money is time, and I don't waste food, so I went to go and speak to property developer Avery Carrington, who gave me some serious Arthur Morgan on crack vibes.
Property business isn't all about highfalutin paper pushing.
He tells us to go and beat up his golfing buddy who had put his balls into his holes without consent, but we first needed to change our clothes. On my way to the store, I ran past this pizza place where a cop kept running into the window and getting out of breath after freaking out and realizing that they didn't sell donuts. I let him handle his own candle, as one could never understand that type of pain, and continued to put on my new threads.
Is this me?
Nice ass, baby.
Unlike toxic gym girls, Tommy likes getting catcalled because he indeed did have a nice ass. At the golf club, we got into a fight over who has the biggest hole. It turns out that Tommy never learned how to swim because we got yeeted into the water and drowned. Death is nothing but a blink away, and so we had to go all the way to the beginning and start over. This time around, however, I was a bit more careful around the water, but it wouldn't matter because the golfing buddy had a change of cars, which would lead to us chasing him throughout the city. I had to change cars twice because I kept crashing, but after 10 minutes or so, the trust fund golfing buddy was put to rest. At least he went out like he always wanted, which was through destroying public property and then blowing himself up. Diaz then calls and says he misses us, so we go over to his house where he ironically tells us to go and follow a thief who stole his money. I was 99% sure that he was the guy who ambushed us and stole our money, but we do the mission anyway because we are a follower and not a leader. We end up chasing the guy on our Vespa again, and after finding out where he hid the money, we meet up with Lance Vance from Vance Refrigerators, who flies us over this mansion which he wanted to turn into our clubhouse since we were now best friends till the end. Tommy is a bit of a pushover as he just does anything that he is told, except getting Sonny's money back.
That was my money, Tommy!
We then do 2 more missions for Diaz, one where we steal a boat and one where we had to steal a military vehicle. If anyone asks, I did steal the tank by blocking it on a Vespa. I just conveniently forgot to record that part. Meanwhile, back at Diaz's mansion, he tells us to go and get some cargo on a speedboat while his henchmen treat themselves to a pool party, in which they didn't even invite Lance Vance.
I'm just saying, you need to let me in there, my man.
At this point in the game, we know that it is Diaz who blew Sonny's deal and stole the money during the ambush, and Tommy goes on to explain that him and Lance are running errands for Diaz to learn more about him for when they take over the town. This came as a shocker to me, because Tommy never once mentioned giving Sonny his money back, nor did he let me in on his little plan to become mayor of the town, which led me to believe that Tommy might be the bad guy of the story. Before we find out too much, I'd like to leave us all on a cliffhanger, because the ultimate question is, will Tommy ever get out of this pool? You'll never find out unless you watch the review. What would you get if I gave you this code? Too slow down low, bro, but we're not here to focus on you. We're here to focus on the GTA Vice City review. I won't be focusing on factors such as soundtrack, audio, or graphics because that is for noobs. And these days, any game can impress noobs by ticking those boxes while providing nothing but shallow gameplay in return. Right off the bat, I hated the fact that if you fail a mission, you lose all your weapons, armor, and you had to redo the whole thing. But this game was released in 2002, and once I got over the fact that I wasn't going to be babied and had to be extra careful when doing missions, the game got really addictive. The game made its plot clear from the start, and I knew what was going on from the get-go, without feeling lost or uninterested after 10 minutes of gameplay. The gameplay mechanics and controls were fluid and solid, with only minor bugs and glitches that were created by me and not the game. One thing that always matters to me is player-character connectivity. If there is no player to connect to or relate to, I lose interest. In the sense of Vice City, the characters had actual personalities which separated their status in the game from NPCs. For instance, I actually hated the antagonist, instead of just feeling general animosity towards them. They didn't force you to like or dislike characters via a overly complex plot or cliché backstory. It just happened naturally throughout the game. The environment and worlds generally designed by Rockstar Games never disappoint, and I really felt like with Vice City, it went beyond just being surface level. The missions and side quests were kept to a minimal and was never dragged out just for the sake of game hours. Overall, I think it was a great game that really incorporated all the elements required for it to be a great game. Let me know if you want a part 2 on this game and what you thought of GTA Vice City when you played it, or if you would play it in the future. Don't forget to let me know what game you want me to play next, and if you like this video, give it a like and subscribe. That's it from me. I'll see you again later sometime and someplace with another video. Until next time, bye!
Earwax flavour?